Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Brain and Code e-commerce teardowns. Here, Mel and I selected different websites each episode to run a live audit and provide insights and recommendations. Mel has over 15 years of experience developing websites and is a certified usability analyst. I have over 12 years of experience in the e-commerce industry with multiple Adobe Commerce certifications as well. And don't forget, if you'd like to have your website featured in one of our episodes, just let us know. Our contacts are in the video description. Hey, Mel, let's jump right away.
Okay, good. Let me share my screen. I have chosen um, a website in the construction and machinery space today.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And so I think it's, we audit a lot of B2C e-commerce sites. And so it's a nice switch to take a look at a B2B one. And there are different aspects that we look at when we look at B2B sites versus B2C. So let's
Mm-hmm.
run through this one. A bit of backgrounder. I think the Hitachi brand is quite well known, and so I don't think it needs a lot of background context. But yeah, they specialize in heavy duty machinery. They service the construction and infrastructure industries. They not only sell equipment, parts that work with the equipment, the Hitachi brand equipment, and also they support businesses with sales, rentals, maintenance, and a lot of that aftercare service, which is very typical of B2B companies. So, yeah, lots of things we could dive into for this site, I think. When we look at B2B sites, like when I run a UX audit, then typically like there are a few areas that we want to make sure perform really well so that the site services B2B customers well. And
Mm-hmm.
those are product discovery. Search is going to be completely different from B2C. For example, your customers are going to know a SKU number, a part number, like when we're talking about machinery, they want to reorder the exact same product because they've ordered it already on their project and maybe it's the on an approved list, their order list, right? And so I think that's it's very important that the search functions and also the site when you look at the products, how you can find the product in different ways, whether it's through the categories and then diving deeper into the subcategories in a very linear fashion, or jump straight to for speed and efficiency, like jump straight to like a part number search or a SKU search, right? So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's very different on B2B sites. It's important for websites like this to provide the right decision-making content because people purchasing for B2B, they're not going to be making impulse buys. It's different than buying a
Yes.
new sweater or you're shopping for a present or something like that. It's going to be impulsive, right? B2B purchases are going to be based on information, data, sometimes reviews, so that might overlap a bit with the B2C space, and trust and credibility and all that, and spec sheets, right? For machinery, the specifications are going to be important. You might have to share it with your manager or maybe your other people, working on the project and you're sharing information. So that's also very important to be able to download and share information and trust signals. So the brand itself, like Hitachi, I think has got that going for them already because of the brand is well known, right? So they don't have to do as much work to distill trust, but then still, like you want to make sure that your site looks like, well, it is the official Hitachi site. People don't think that you're just a scam, right? And
Yeah.
so those trust signals are still important, right? And big brands sometimes miss that because they think, well, like everybody already knows us, but in order to convert quickly, you do want to make sure that that is all on your B2B site. So yeah, and so a lot of things that we're going to be talking about today, going through this Hitachi construction machinery site, is going to be focused on that B2B and industrial buyer in the construction and machinery space.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I think you touched that, Mel. One of the things that I believe is one of the biggest challenge on the B2B industry, especially in the construction industry, is the need to display or to present your products but sometimes you have like hundreds of thousands of products, and it's very hard to organize that in a way that your consumer, your client, can navigate through. So it's good that you touch those points, because I think this is one of the greatest difference when you're talking about B2C and B2B, of course, is the quantity of parts of machines and everything that you're selling. That's usually in the in the sky high numbers for a website.
Yes. Yeah. And then I think what we find a lot when we're working with our B2B clients is that um, there sometimes is not so much attention or effort put into streamlining and improving the user experience. But you have to understand that, yes, maybe the buyer has to buy from you, right? They have no choice. They know that they have to come for you for parts. And so maybe that's why sometimes budget isn't spent or allocated to these areas. But then it does impact the overall customer experience, their loyalty to your brand. And so all of it is, because your B2B buyers, I know they're B2B, and sometimes there are those reasons why, they're kind of stuck with you, right? Maybe they don't have a lot of options, but then you want to make sure that your brand stays as the first choice for that B2B buyer. And so if there's, if you could provide a very seamless shopping experience for them online, then that's going to encourage them to shop online. That's also going to help reduce the amount of calls. Calls are great, when you can make a sale and all that, but then when it becomes a barrier, if your customers can self-serve because your e-commerce site is very strong, that also helps reduce the budget that you have to allocate to, say, customer support and sales inquiries over the phone, right? And so
Yes,
there's a lot of movement to that, trying to get those phone orders and uh, the in-person type of, sales transactions and sales activities in the past, like online. And
exactly.
those B2B buyers are B2C consumers on a day-to-day basis. We're all human, right? We're buying things online. And so definitely, we started talking about this years ago already, right? That consumer, even though they are a B2B buyer, they're going to expect the B2C user experience on your e-commerce store. So it's no different, right? And
Absolutely,
so you you,
absolutely.
you do want to be able to serve that up to them so that it's very positive. It's just like when they buy something from Amazon, right? They shouldn't struggle just because you're a B2B site, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts before we dive
No, no,
in?
that's all. Let's jump in.
Okay. Okay, good. So we're on the homepage, so it's always good to start here. And I'll just point out a few things. Feel free to interrupt me. We can kind of jump around to the core pages of the e-commerce site and then share some thoughts on what we spot they do well and not. Okay, so navigation, let's start there. I think they've got a good drop down menu. I like that they've got graphics to support the product range. So it appeals to both the visual and also the text-based textual type of user. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
I see they've got some product support. So they offer maintenance, warranty, fleet management. You could get parts, their connected technology service. So that's good. I think they've grouped this well. Web shop is interesting. Like they call it web shop. And I wonder if it's because they're not selling equipment. We'll click there and take a look at what they offer there in a bit. Connected technology's got its own section, which is interesting because it's a subcategory in product support. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
they wanted to highlight it, and so they pulled it out. A bit of redundancy, I think, when in navigation planning, we want to make sure that there's not a lot of redundancies. Otherwise, your hierarchy and the groupings are going to be start to be confusing, right?
Yes.
B2B sites definitely like about us contact are important, right? So I agree with putting these in the navigation for Hitachi. I think it makes sense. Get news and insights and yeah, and all that. And contact us. So yeah, I think that header's good. I let's scroll down and we could click through and see if there's
I have just one quick thing about the mega menu.
yeah.
Uh, I don't know if I like the color contrast used for
Mm-hmm.
the font. I think it's good because it's following like the styling of the mega menu. But sometimes, especially if you have some, fused glasses, or if you are on a impaired vision or something like that, uh, it could use a little bit more darker gray. Could still keep gray. It doesn't need to be black, but a little bit more darker, because with the white background, especially here, you can see there's a good contrast because they have image. But if you go to, I think it was About Us, where you, yeah, here, there's no images, so it's just like this white board at the background, and then the gray. I think I would just use like something to increase the contrast there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And I think what you see here is that there is only one template that they program for the mega menu, and it has images, like it has a spot for the images, but the About Us section, they didn't have thumbnails that they thought were appropriate to upload, but instead of reorganizing the design, the layout of this mega menu, they just left the gaps, which makes the alignment kind of odd. And one of the other recommendations that, since you touched on the mega menu, is that we always recommend sentence case or title case for labels. So what that means is it's not like all caps, it's all capital letters, right? And so when they're brief like this, like About Us, you don't notice it as much. It's still pretty easy to scan, but when the labels get a bit lengthy, like this one under product support, all caps titles are trickier to scan quickly, read. The readability, there's an issue with all caps. So in this case, like it be, I think, better formatted, like you said, better contrast, maybe darker gray, right? So that the color helps. And also, for example, like maintenance agreements and warranty, capital M, capital A, capital W, and put it in like title case, or just capital M and then the rest in lowercase, it would read better. And also the wrapping, right? So getting into the styling details area, this probably shouldn't wrap into 3 lines. It should probably
Yeah,
wrap at most 2 lines, right?
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yeah. And with a sentence case or a title case, I bet maybe with that width, it could even fit on 1 line, and it would read a lot better. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
good points there. Yeah. Okay, so jumping into the content of the homepage, I did notice they have this slider. It moves quite quickly. I think it could be slowed down, but that's not the biggest issue. I think it's not really apparent what they're promoting here. So it looks like they are promoting two discounts, right? Discount codes and or offers, and then one is career. And so the disconnect there is odd too, like two promos, so product related promos. The last one is careers recruiting. And so I think that they're speaking to two different personas, right? The person who's shopping and then going to apply one of the discount codes, and the person who might apply for a job because they're recruiting. So that use of that carousel for two very distinct audiences is an issue, I think, because those, like, defined areas of the website, it should be very clear who they're speaking to, which target audience. And a lot of B2B sites, they are going to have multiple personas and target audience groups that they had to speak to. But then the areas of, if it's the homepage, then I understand like maybe certain regions of the page would be dedicated and speaking, like serving up content that would be relatable for that specific persona, and some might relate to all, right? But then it should be very clear, like that you should not be using the same space, in this case the prime real estate of the homepage, the banner, to speak to different audience groups. So what would maybe be better is if the promos were kept there, if that is the primary target audience of the site, right? So I would recommend the promos, and then the career could perhaps be a smaller block down below, like genuine parts. Maybe there's another section below that, speaking about careers, or yeah, underneath latest news. So depending on the importance of the recruiting efforts and this content here, they could place it elsewhere, like the further down the page. And if it's very important, that they're recruiting, and that should take priority over the promos, well, then that should be the static banner. And then below that, maybe have like two banner static with the promos, right? So yeah, so that I think could be improved. And the other thing, so while we're on the slider, is the promotion. So I think the copywriting could be better. Let's see. It keeps cycling too. So these sliders need to be configured properly so that it actually pauses if the user's mouse is in that region. Because if the mouse is there,
Agree.
it's likely that the user is interacting with it. They are interested in the promo, but next thing I know, yeah, my mouse hasn't left this area, and it's already moved to the next one, right? So
Yeah.
that's a
And there's nothing
that's a
you can
concern.
do. I try to pause by clicking and holding my mouse
Holding, no.
to see if that would
Yeah,
hold,
I just
but it
tried.
doesn't. It
It's still
doesn't. It
wet.
doesn't. I tried. But one thing that I want to say quickly, it's about the career. I agree with you. I think it start two different personas there, but you know I can see one positive point for having it there. First, maybe they are in a higher need because they're growing, so it's important for them to hire people. And the second, those products they are selling, especially with the large ones, you want to make sure that if you're purchasing, you are with a sustainable and growing company. And there's no better way to show that you're growing than have on your main banner a hiring banner that shows for the maybe I'm not interested on apply to any job there, but I am a buyer and I'm going to buy one of those big machineries, and I just want to make sure that okay, does I can rely. Hitachi has a reputable brand, and it's well consolidated, but it's always good to know that the company is growing. So
Mm,
that's maybe that could be one appeal. I'm not justifying the fact that it's there, but
yeah.
could be one way to see that.
Yeah, and that's why like it justifies the importance of it, right? Of placing it high
Yes.
on the page. Yeah, I agree. That's a very good point. Yeah. And yeah, last thing I want to point out is the promos themselves. I think that's like when I look at this winter ready, worry free, in terms of copywriting and even the button, it keeps slipping on me. Just pause here for a sec. Okay, so the button says shop now, and so okay, I'll keep clicking. Both the headline, the copy, 10% off, use code winter10, shop now, doesn't tell me what the product is. It tells me the benefit, winter ready, worry free, right? So there's definitely a missed opportunity here. It should be very direct, should include the product name or the category name if we want the benefit statement used as the heading itself, right? The headline here. Great, maybe that works. And we could sneak in the product category here, like shop. Actually, I don't even know what it is they're selling. Let's use the second one, for example, the oils, right? So here, like shop oils, right? Or whatever it is, whatever the category name is. So I think that there are ways to keep the slider, but improve on the content and also the promo codes. I also notice. Let me and so they're promoting these discount codes that I could use in my cart. And what do we do with discount codes? We copy them and we paste them in that field when we get to checkout, right? And so here I noticed that
You can't. You
you
can't.
can't, yeah,
You
you can't
can't.
select it. I noticed this when you said, hey, try to click and pause it or try to pause the
Yeah.
slider, but the text isn't selectable. So
Yeah.
the silver lining is it is short. I can remember it, but it's just that little bit of extra convenience that as a website user yourself, right? Like that you do tend to copy and paste discount codes. So whether it is in the banner, a lot of companies will have those skinny banners at the top with the ongoing promo with a discount code. So
Mhm.
just make sure when you implement those marketing banners that promo code is selectable text
Yeah.
and you could copy and paste it easily,
And that
right?
helps to prevent typos, right?
Oh,
You,
yes.
you
Yeah.
could be frustrated, but maybe you read here winter can. I
Or
can see
oil,
there
singular, oil 10.
oil 10 or even capital. I don't know if it's case sensitive
Decent.
the
Yeah.
promo, because here they're using capital W and capital O, but maybe you forgot about it and it just go winter 10 and it's not working. And if you copy paste is way better. The
Thanks.
other thing that I noticed, speaking of being constant, I don't know if you noticed, but the shop button changed the name. One is buy here, the other one is shop now. And when I first saw, I thought that maybe with the shop now it will be redirect to a different website and buy here or buy at this website. But no, it takes me just to another category level. So
Exactly. Yeah, consistent. Yeah, consistent use of labels is important for sure. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, let's scroll down, see what else we see. I think this is good. The product range.
good.
Yeah, the four categories. The only thing did notice because we were hovering over the menu, there are seven categories, and so um, I wonder if because it's not like they've got 20 categories or 10 even, right? Like it's the seven is quite a small number, and I think there's probably opportunity to showcase them all, but being able to showcase over 50%, I think is really good. So that's definitely something we always look for on a homepage, right?
Yeah. Well,
Within
one
the
thing,
first 35 seconds, you should be able to see at least 40%, I think is the minimum, right? 40
mhm,
to 70% of the product categories being represented on the homepage, not the main menu, because that's a different wayfinding tool, but then on the homepage content itself, the kind of rule of thumb we aim for is like 40 to 70%. So I think they do a good job here.
yes, I agree. And maybe it's just because we don't know the industry quite well. Because
Mhm.
if you look at, yes, they do have seven subcategories on the product range, but maybe those seven subcategories are actually subcategories from these four main categories we're seeing below, because they say tracked excavators and wheeled excavators. And maybe, some of the
Yeah.
mini excavators and large excavators are all
I
part
think
of.
Yes, I think you nailed it. Yes, I actually think they might be representing 100%. Because as you were saying that, I was like, huh, I think you might be right. So I was matching them, right? So wheel loader is the first one, wheeled excavators is the second one. Used equipment, the last on the homepage is this one. And then I
Yes,
noticed it's mini, medium, large, ultra large. So must
but
be these four categories are all within the tracked excavator. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So yep. 100 points here. 100 points here for representing the category. So they've got it all. So that's very nice to see. Um, yeah, nothing much there to speak about. So I think these are their services. So
Yeah,
that's
and I like
that's
the fact that they have
good.
the
Yeah.
services highlighted there. It's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah. I think the slider, so this nitpicking a bit being a UI designer myself, is the sliders I do think that try to try to use it sparingly because the issue with sliders is that because we're doing a audit of the site, right, and trying to kind of pick it apart. So that's why we came here. We took the time, read all the labels. We have a general idea within the first 10 seconds of what content is in the site. So I think we come at it with a slight bias and difference in navigating than a typical user. When I come to the homepage, if I'm a typical user, I might not know what content is buried, like is going to be there, like in the second, third, and fourth, right? There's not
Mm-hmm.
enough cues to tell me or give me motivation or reason to click those icons, the dots, the controls for the slider, right? And I think let me refresh, but I don't. Do you remember if it auto animated? This one, I don't think they program auto animating, which is preferred. Okay, so I'm not saying they should change it to animate on its own, but I
No,
think
I don't think
that's
so. I don't think it's a
yeah.
static. And then you
Okay,
use the controls, like the dots are the controls for switching between them.
right, yeah. So I would almost argue. So I like that they represent this content on the homepage, like you said, 100%, right? And so it's showcasing the services and all the maintenance and aftercare services that they provide to the business and construction buyers. But then because it's the content's brief, which is great, it's good copywriting for the
Mm-hmm.
homepage. And because it is brief, it could probably just all live in a grid 2 by 2 or even like 4 columns and showcase all of them. Like in this case, like a slider is probably unnecessary and actually acts as a hindrance to users engaging with that content, right? And yeah, or if there was a label that said these are like product support, right? So that's what they've called it, product support. Then at least I know, okay, like there's like I could look at what other product supports services that they offer, right? So I do think just seeing the first one with the dots might not encourage me to explore. Yeah, so that's maybe this content would probably be buried. I think not a lot of users would be exposed to it. I like how it's sticky, the navigation.
I like that
Um,
too.
and I think they've implemented it well because they, in the stickiness, they hide the, if I go back up here, hide the logo and because you already landed on site, you know where you are, right? And if you didn't click on this contact information, that means I wasn't here to just find a phone number and call anyhow, right? And so when I scroll down, it is the main navigation that sticks and also the cart, which is great. Right. So I think they've good implementation there on the sticky header. Yeah, news looks good, I think. Very standard there. Newsletter is good as well. Love the graphics. It's
Mm-hmm,
really
mm-hmm.
draws the eyes. Different from the graphics above, right? So I love how they did that with the newsletter because it's by the time you get down to the bottom page, nice to add some visual interest so that people
Yeah,
keep engaged. And I love the big phone numbers too. It's because in B2B, like you do want to make sure that even though we are trying to get more customers in that self-service mode so that we don't have to support them as much if they can place their order themselves, that's the end goal, right? But
agreed, agreed.
the reality is that we are going to have customers who want to pick up the phone and call. Maybe they're used to
Yes,
talking to a salesperson and they've done it for the past 10, 15 years, right? They just want to talk to somebody. And so I
yes.
think it's nice that they've got the phone number big and bold down there. Yeah. Okay. Anything else on the homepage before we jump
No,
to
the
some
only
other
thing I was
areas?
going to say is this is, like we said, pretty much B2B website.
Mhm.
So built for other companies. One thing that was missing within the homepage, but it is in the footer though, is like something that promotes more the apply for a credit because in the B2B industry, it's quite common. You're not going to use like a credit card to purchase like a I don't know how much an excavator costs, but I would say it's a much more than the credit I have on my credit card. But but I would companies wouldn't use their credit card, so they usually have bill my account, pay on accounts, things like that, and they do have at the footer a link for the credit, apply for a credit account, and for a B2B website, I would make that a little bit more prominent on the website somehow.
It took me a few seconds. I was trying to follow along, trying to highlight it. It took me a while to find it. So I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, because there's some things like the cookie policy and such, right? Like I do
Yes.
feel like apply for a credit account's probably should be higher in this list. And terms and conditions privacy, I know like all these policies are important, but then maybe some grouping of the information so that the action driven ones like the apply for credit account are separated into two columns with subheadings so that it's
Yeah.
just easier to scan.
Because as you can see, something that I loved about the website itself and the company, and that translates a lot about the company values to me, is the fact that they are also people driven. Because if you
Yes,
see the
like all
links they
these
have there,
yes.
they have the sustainability, they have gender pay gap report, and those are
Yeah.
amazing things to have. You don't see that on many companies out there. But because they did what we complement, the big head offs number, as one of the columns, because you can see there's four columns here. Probably that's what the template has. I definitely agree with you that this second column here could be better used with like a
Yeah.
one sub or one header for each one of them. So separate them between what is corporate from what is
Yes.
people driven content. So human rights policy, gender pay, shouldn't be side by side or at the same level as apply for a credit account tax strategy from a B2B sales standpoint. And even if I was looking for something more people driven content, it would be great to have that highlighted somewhere, because to me, I was, if I wasn't doing this UX tear down with the episode, I would definitely pass that. I was just say, oh yeah, they have some things here on the menu, so fine. Or on the footer, and just pass that. But
Yeah.
that's the only thing that I would say.
Yeah, that's a really good point because you're right that because it's such a long list, right? Like there's probably 12 items, 11, 12 items here, then you're just going to pass it over, right? Like you say, it's like, okay, footer, right? And then, and your eye does get drawn to the phone number and maybe these black bold links. But these, especially starting with terms and conditions, I'm just going to glaze over it, the
Yes.
entire list. And I love what you said about communicating company values because the user doesn't have to, your customer doesn't have to click it. The labels already speak so much about the company. And so a quick exercise here, it could be like what we were suggesting. The first one, so if company values is important to communicate without needing the user to click into the pages, maybe the heading would be company or company values or like something like that, right? Like, and then
Mm-hmm.
under that could be about us still makes sense, right? And then we would put the slavery, human trafficking, sustainability, human rights, gender pay gap, careers probably still fit in the about in the company, right? And so it would have the 5 links, and then there might be the more customer service or support type things, like your apply for credit account might be in one of the columns with along with some other links, and then all your terms and policies and things like that could go in a third column under another label, right? And then I still think like the Instagram we didn't really talk about, but I wonder how many people click that. If you're a B2B customer, how important is an Instagram account? And I don't know like enough about their user to make that judgment call at this point, but it would be very interesting to see the stats on.
Yeah.
And I don't, want to take up time in the episode to click there and kind of go down a rabbit hole. We're not here to audit their social channels, but I wonder how many people follow them on Instagram, and is that an effective marketing and brand building technique for them? Like, is it working? Is this strategy actually it deserves the prominence here, right? And so, and if it does, great. But does it need to be a static component on the footer? Maybe it becomes one of the homepage blocks. It's a good place to put it, or
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
about page, but it does seem to take quite a bit of real estate on the footer, right? It's very prominent, and so maybe a bit of cleanup on the footer, or a smaller Instagram widget if it really deserves to stay, right? Then I think it could serve them really well. Yeah.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed.
Okay, let's take a look at their e-commerce. So I know, like, okay, let's go in here. I think the product range. Because so there is little bit of confusion for me, and maybe because I'm not the primary target audience, and that might be it. But I'm just, just looking at it surface level as a user. I don't buy heavy equipment, so heavy machinery. So I just want to be very clear about that. And maybe that I'm
What are you
missing
talking
something.
about? What are you talking about? I thought
I
we
got one
use
in the
like heavy
backyard.
machinery for for your backyard.
Just yeah, call me up. I could, I could prep your site for you. I got a few excavators in my yard. But yeah, I think that it's not very clear if they sell their equipment and machinery, which I would 100% assume so because they're calling it this is my product range, right? But they've got product range and web shop. So what's the difference? I don't think the main navigation actually tells me that. So that's why I'm curious, and let's click there. And you saw I went back because I wanted to speak about that first, right? But then did you notice I went to another site? So I think used equipment probably has its own site, its own navigation. I can go
Yeah.
back, which is good, but I wish that it was just incorporated into the site, and there's not like I'm not having to learn a new user interface now.
Yes, because you're right. Even the URL changed.
Yes, yeah, subdomain, and it's got similar categories. Yeah, the mini, medium, large, right, and wheel loaders. Um, the footer, there's some similarities, but because we were looking in such detail, you can see the footer, there's slight differences. Oops. But there's some slight differences. There's an email address, right? And then so I think having a need for two separate sites, there's sometimes in a lot of use cases, I think
Mm-hmm.
that it's valid. But just make sure in that case, in these cases, then make sure the user interface, like header, footer, and also categorization of content, your products, and looking at if there's redundancy in the content, if used equipment. So this subsite here covers. Let's which one do you want me to go into? Let's go into another one just out of curiosity. Ooh. Okay, I didn't know that was gonna happen. Okay, let's choose one. Choose one of these wheel loaders. Yeah, so in this case, I stayed on the site. So is the assumption that this maybe maybe it's just the used equipment. Let me just take a cheat and look at the bottom left there. Yeah, it's just a used equipment that leaves the site, right? And not any of these categories. These six actually stay on the site. Yeah, which makes sense. So they have a dedicated used equipment website separate here. And these ones are the call to action is to get a quote or download the brochure and, yeah, and get in touch with our sales team. It's like so in terms of navigation cues, even if the subsite, so the used equipment site is separate, has a separate header, there's a need, and as long as it links back to the main site, and that's great. But the buyer who's looking for used equipment probably will be able to serve their needs like on the used equipment site. So I actually think, yep, this is a very viable approach, right? In the navigation, it would benefit from just a small icon or something, that indicates that you're going to leave the site. So the user knows, like, and is not shocked, like when that site loads, right? Or when the site loads, I wonder if it'd be better and less confusing if it opened in another tab and you kept the main website. There's a
Yeah,
few ways I think
no,
to go
no,
about it.
I agree with you. But honestly, sometimes, and we work with projects like that where you have the need to have a separate website for hundreds of reasons. Okay, from business reasons, for legacy reasons. There's so many reasons for that. And then if that's the case, if you do need and you still want to promote like a seamless approach for the user who's using the website, the least you can do is to keep the quite similar, like not talking only about font or font size or colors, but the overall structure of the website should be the same. So like we discussed, like the footer, there big
Mhm.
difference between the header, there are difference between. So I honestly, I'm not too concerned about going to a different website, because this is quite common on the B2B industry, especially when you have, maybe they have a subdivision just for the used
Yeah.
equipment, and the subdivision is much more uh, knowledgeable, and could be served better. You have so much content
Mhm.
that you have the need to promote that in a different website, which is fine. But the consistency between them, if so, you don't cause any kind of confusion, like, or am I still at the same website or not? If they want to give the similar perception, and they are, based on what I quickly checked here, I'm 99% positive that they are using the same CMS. I think they're both using WordPress, which makes everything even easier, because you and I would work on projects where we had one was WordPress, the other one was Magento or Shopify and
Mhm.
WordPress and
Mhm.
things like that, which makes harder to keep consistency, because each CMS has its own rules and each theme has its own rules. But here, I think that it's
Yeah, yeah,
appropriate to keep it.
I agree. So I think to sum up, we both agree two separate sites make a lot of sense. We see it in the B2B space a lot for all the reasons you mentioned. In terms of the user interface, so designing it, there are a couple of solutions. If it kept, like we kept it in, I think I got two tabs. So let's, oh, this is a, hang on a minute. Let me go back to the main site. Okay. So either if there's no change, maybe just an indication to tell the user, hey, you're going to our used equipment dedicated site, which is
Yeah,
great, very positive experience.
yeah, yeah.
Or, those sites that has those subdivisions, like you said, or maybe they are sister brands or whatever it is, right? Like, or one is B2C, one is B2B, right? And then maybe as tabs along the top, you have to toggle between the two so that the users know which site they're in, and everything below that is the site that they're currently in, right? So I think
Yes,
instead of like changing the header entirely once you leave the site, that's where that disjointed experience comes through, right?
agreed.
Okay, so um, we clicked into here already, and so I am curious, and we saw like the excavators, so the different size excavators, the wheel loaders. I can submit an inquiry form, get a quote, find some brief information about it. So it looks like they don't sell that online. So I am curious, what can I add to cart? So the thing that's left is a web shop, and so what does the web shop sell? Um, Okay. Okay, so they sell parts, right? So
Yes,
the heavy
good, good, good.
machinery, all, get a quote, so you can't purchase them. I can't just buy an excavator and have them ship it to my house. And then the parts I can. Great USPs. So there are unique selling propositions here up front. The changing color, I love the next day delivery because B2B, a lot of users are looking for quick delivery of parts. Maybe they're in like they've got the project running already and they don't want to experience any delays, right? Because maybe a part broke and they need a replacement. So it's very important to be able to convey how quickly it would be shipped and delivered. The estimated shipping or the delivery time is going to help make that sale.
Yes, yes.
Love the guarantees, right? As they say right up front, they're Hitachi backed
Yeah,
guarantee and
and the 75,000
catalog.
parts available
Yes.
kind of translates what we're talking at the beginning of our teardown today. Like B2B companies sometimes has this kind of challenge on how I'm gonna promote. Maybe you don't want to promote 75,000 parts, but how are going to
Mhm.
promote 5,000 of those parts within one website?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I would prefer the word web shop, like if it is just all parts, right? And well, yeah, we could take a quick scan here. And so these are their subcategories, right? Oils, lubricants, cap filters,
Uh,
batteries,
no,
accessories.
Mel, we're
Hmm?
we're I cannot see the subcategories on your screen.
Oh, you know what it is? I think, okay, let me stop sharing. I'm gonna share my whole screen because I think if I share it that way. Okay. Can you, s- can you see it now?
Yes, yes, I can see
Okay,
now.
good. Yes. The difference when I share window and share screen. Okay, so here, I'm just quickly looking at their drop down and I could see those categories, right? The oils, lubricants, glass, accessories, service kits, undercarriage, etc. And so, and if they're calling it genuine Hitachi parts, and these are all parts, and maybe it's like parts and accessories or it's something descriptive. Like I'm still not sold on the label web
Mm-hmm,
shop.
mm-hmm.
Because I think that it's not descriptive and it doesn't tell me like what we said at the beginning that, oh, what's the difference between this product range and web shop? They're both very generic labels, right? And actually, this one could be equipment and machinery, or yeah, something. Yeah, I kind of like that equipment or machinery or not being an expert in the space. Maybe it's both. Maybe you need both, right? Or excavators, excavators and loaders are even more specific, right? And have the
Mm-hmm.
keywords in there. And then this could be parts and accessories. All right. So, okay. It's interesting they got shop online. I'm already in the web shop. I wonder what this is. It's sticky and contact. See, contact's redundant too. We already saw it here. So I wonder if, okay, I'm just peeking again at without clicking. So we don't have to click around so much. So this goes to slash contact. Yeah, this goes to the same place, right? I'm just looking at the URL on the bottom left there. So I think let's click this. Actually, I can already see from the URL. It's just taking me to the page I'm already at. So I wonder why this was introduced. It's definitely redundant, both, right? The shop online and the contact. This is yeah. And what you said about the consistency and the labeling. of
Mm-hmm.
the buttons in the homepage slider, right? The buy here and the shop now. Uh, why the two different? So, first of all, it should be more specific. It should be parts and accessories. But then, if you're gonna go with web shop, and maybe there's a reason for it, right? Maybe that's how you've marketed this shop, right, to your existing B2B customers already, and you love the label. Then this should just say web shop too. Well, first of all, it shouldn't be there, but if it's there and you have two different CTAs, the buttons or links across your site, doesn't matter where, if it goes to that page, the parts page, this shop, it should just say the same thing, right? So the consistency will really help users not get confused and overwhelmed and think, oh, well, like, is this different than shop online? Am I going to find different products in shop online? And we're technical users, so I'm cheating. I'm looking at the URL and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to click that. I'm already on that page, right? But to a typical user, they won't know, and they'll be enticed to click it and go, oh, maybe there's more products here, right?
Yes, yes, I agree. And then also the fact that once you're here, if you're looking, they have breadcrumbs, which is good, but if you look at the breadcrumb, it says parts right away.
Yes.
It doesn't say like web shop. And this could
Okay.
mislead to think that not everything here. I don't know. I'm not from the industry, but I wouldn't call like oils and lubricants as parts. Part,
Yes.
so, and that maybe that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking, so I could mislead to say, oh, I'm in the parts page.
Mhm.
Where do I find the other like product like service kits? I want to service kits. I don't want to buy any parts. I just want to like a filter or some accessories as well. So those are the things that I think maybe the wording could be better. So don't mislead the user to the intent for the page.
Yes. And this is a huge assumption, but we do see it a lot when we take over sites that have been existing for 5, 10 years, right? Is that what we talked about at the very beginning? The budget, effort, priority spent on, like, for a B2B company on their website. It could be that the story is they launched a site thinking that they would only sell parts. And so they created a section, an e-commerce section, and started selling parts. And then they started to add more products to it, like the accessories. And that's why I was recommending the parts and accessories as the main navigation label, right? But not revisiting the navigation. So
Mm-hmm.
adding to your catalog, growing those categories and your the products and or services that you're offering, but not revisiting labels that you've given to categories that drive your navigation, right? And so maybe they came in and changed this main heading here and did some other changes, but then looking at the database and the infrastructure and all that, they didn't actually go in and revamp it. And so
Yeah,
we
yeah,
always recommend our clients that, yeah, like when you launch your site, websites are constantly evolving, right? So we always ask short-term, long-term goals, like which categories are you launching the site with? And do you have any plans to add new categories so that when we do our navigation strategy, then we're recommending something that's future proof and gives them some legs like to grow, right? And there might be some categories that come up like 2, 3 years later. So that's why it's very important that when the site's launched, it could be very robust, great navigation, everything's going fine. But as things evolve over time and you're adding to your database of categories, then revisit the user experience, revisit the navigation, and make sure that
exactly.
it's improved or it caught up with the changes that you're making to your site over time.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so here, let's take a look at what we see here in the web shop landing page. Okay, so yeah, the categories, we see a few categories. I'm not gonna click away for now, but I assume if I choose one and I click, it might refresh the page, maybe. Okay, so down below the breadcrumb, Okay, I could see I could filter by machines as well. Oh, it's a long list. I can tell from the scroll bar here. But let's see if I did know. Okay, good. Yeah, it allows me to input characters. So if I knew exactly like my machine um, uh, code, the part number or the machine number, the SKU, then I could come here and filter by that machine by typing. And same with this, I think. Yeah, parts. There's a lot of parts here, and that's what we expected, the 75,000 parts, right? And
But
if I start typing, I get, yeah, then the list narrows down, which is great. So when I
uh,
select it, let's see what it does. Okay, yeah, I don't know what I searched for, but it does narrow it down to one item. So that's good. Like what we were talking about with the B2B, right? Some people already know that the SKU that they're searching for, and they'll just come here and enter it and expect to see it.
mhm.
That's good. Okay, how do I reset? Okay, so that's, I think. You see, I'm confused here.
Yes, yes.
So, how do I get back to the page I was at? I okay, the only way I can think of is the back button. So we never want that for the user. I know that people will go up here, use the back button and go back, but then we should be able to provide them with a navigation and a filter, like product list filter or category navigation experience where everything is happening just on your page, right? So I think there's a couple solutions, and maybe you could think of some others too. If these were subcategories, oops, can't activate. Okay, so if these 10 or so are subcategories, these are additional ways to find my product, right? So these are filters, filter by machine, filter by part number. I actually think they'd be better off with a left column, like static, like persistent navigation that has subcategories first. Below that, might have the filter by machines, a filter by part number. And
Hmm.
then as I am navigating through the product list, I am narrowing down my product search. Then I can always access those navigation elements. And so but I'd be able to like, but browse and um, oh, what happened there?
Uh, what did you click the rubber
Yeah, I clicked
tracks?
on rubber tracks. I wanted to see on the sun navigation once I get to the second level. So this is what I'm assuming that web shop is at parts, web shop or parts, whatever you want to call it, top level,
Hmm.
right? The parent category. These are my subcategories because they seem to match the drop down here. But maybe not because where is rubber tracks? I see oils and lubricants up here. Uh,
Yeah, most of them are
yeah,
there. There are some
yeah.
differences. It's not all, but no, no, I think it all. I think it all. Sorry, I think it all. But I'm not seeing. You're right. I'm not seeing
Yeah,
rubber
the rubber
tracks here.
tracks. So again, cheating a bit, looking at the URL that we see it linked to on the bottom left. At one point, I believe rubber tracks was a subcategory. And so it does seem like a bit of a, it's probably a bug. They probably got rid of that category and did not update the overview page, which surprisingly is the first item. And so I think that this page, and you could speak better to it, like speaking about the back end and all that, right? It's because I'm coming from at it from a UX UI perspective, but my assumptions or my experience would be that this category existed. This landing page is not dynamically driven by their catalog in WordPress or WooCommerce, whatever they've got in the
Mm-hmm.
back end, right? And it's been programmed as a static overview page with thumbnails, labels, buttons. And so in the back end, when they're removing or updating their product categories, it there's no change here unless somebody maintaining the site comes and go, oh, rubber tracks has been removed. Please remove this, right? And I go in and remove this block. All right, so it's probably what's going on. It's always
Yeah.
interesting whenever we find bugs, just to make some assumptions on, look at the clues we have and see what's causing the issue here. Yeah, but that could be easily resolved, I think, if the category page it was implemented correctly so that it's dynamically driven by
Yeah,
the.
but I tried to add, that's what I was trying to do here. I was trying to add manually the URL, because sometimes that there's some tricky things that happen. But even manually, I couldn't find. So it seems like the category exists, is there, but someone forgot to make it public. I don't know. Like
Right. Could
maybe
be. Yeah.
maybe still in the draft mode, and I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, lots of potential reasons why that's happening. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's go to oils and lubricants instead. Um, okay, so this is their second level subcategory page under parts is my assumption here. And so this actually illustrates that point we were getting at really well, that now I've lost access to the other subcategories. And as a B2B customer, it's likely that I'm not here to buy just one thing. I have a big construction project going on, right? And so I may be ordering a whole list of parts and accessories for my project. And yeah, it's unlikely I'm coming to order one thing, right? And leave in one session. And so sometimes it's the case. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, right? But here you can see I've lost access to whatever those were, right? Like the other categories, filters and other accessories, kits, batteries, right? And also because when I hover over a web shop, it doesn't present me with a category list. So that might be a good, like an easy fix to that problem. And then
Mm-hmm.
if we go back, let's see, what are things? Yeah, now I can filter by machine, but I lost a part because I was trying to match like, oh, what did I lose, right? I lost a category, the subcategories, and I lost the part number search.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where, when we were talking about implementing it as a persistent left-hand navigation with those all three elements, because they're good elements, or I think that it really does help the users find what they're looking for. But they should be persistent so that when you go from first level, second level, third level, if there's nested categories within each of them, then that's these uh, UI elements that help with wayfinding and product searchability remain persistent and easy to access.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and also the number of results. So it does. I can see there's two pages, right? So the very important thing for navigation and usability in those regards is presenting the user with the total number of products, so matching results in this list. And that way it tells them whether they should just browse the page or continue to filter down if there is, to help them narrow down their search to find what they're looking for. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so I noticed it doesn't indicate how many products are here.
Exactly.
Okay, let's choose one and let's take a look at this product page. There's an interesting product detail page too. I think the layouts is it's interesting they got this banner. I don't know, like maybe they designed it thinking, let's put
Well,
something beautiful and splashy there. It's not, I'm not buying an excavator at this point. Maybe this banner is trying to show what this oil, like what machinery this oil is for. I can't tell if it, or maybe it's just decorative, right? And so I actually prefer if they implemented a very standard product detail page here, right? Just product image, don't need the banner. This is probably the product name, right? And so product name in the banner probably can come out and be black on white or gray. I don't mind the gray, right? But all in this what we call the buy section of a
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
PDP, where all the pertinent information that the user needs to make that purchase decision is all organized in that same area. So that's the product detail page is not a place to get creative. I always, it seems
Yes.
odd coming
Yes.
from a designer, but it's like don't get creative. All your users have certain expectations of product detail pages, and 99% of sites out there where people are shopping and buying look the same. Like the layout is very, very similar, right? And if you get creative, it actually becomes a barrier because it takes them just a little bit longer to digest the information. You see that the randomness of the text alignment, right? This is white text, center aligned in a banner. This is kind of it indented because then it's next to in a separate column with the image, and then the price is over to the right. Whereas and then the add to basket is anchored to the right as well,
Mm-hmm.
where it could be cleaned up and have everything just left aligned to the right of the image, right? In a nice two column layout, very standard, right? And so
Yeah.
the on this page is like definitely the speed that the user can add to cart, complete their purchase. That's the focus. You're not trying to get
Yeah.
creative here.
Well, I'm not trying to defend the approach with the website because I agree there's room for improvements. But again, first, what you said is true. Maybe we don't know if this specific oil is for all these machines. Maybe it is because it says genuine axle. Maybe it is. It is used for so, and it's just our ignorance in the industry not speaking to. The other thing is here at Brain and Code, we already worked with chemical, industry projects before, and it's really hard to have different photographs from a metal container that has oil in it. There's not much to say or not much to show to make the product detail page to look better. It's pretty much it is what it is. You could have different oil types and kind of different components or uses for oil. It still is going to be the same barrel, the same
The
container.
sexy bear.
There's nothing to show there, but just
That's
wanted
true.
to say that before I move forward.
Yes. Are you sure we can't make this barrel more sexy? I don't know.
uh,
Maybe that's why they added the banner.
uh, yes, I think so.
But you know what's missing? Because when you were talking about, well, yeah, maybe it is the case that this oil is compatible with all of these type of machinery, and well, this heading is covering some of them, so it's an issue if that's the case, right? If this was supposed to be informative, but for a B2B site, because I started to scroll down and I saw it's already like that's it, like product name, SKU, price at the basket. And then it goes to related products, contact us, standard footer, right?
Well,
Where's my
that's
technical
all.
specifications?
That's
Where's
all.
my yeah, that's all. And so for a site like this, I did expect the depth of information that
Oh
the
yeah,
buyer
definitely.
would need to assess compatibility, like what we're talking about. So technical specifications, features of this oil, um, I don't think we need to get fancy with like videos and stuff like that, but then like downloadable spec sheets or brochures. Because for a product like this, you could guarantee that there is going to be uh, that resource available already. Because in order to meet whatever standards they need to meet, right, to say what is in the oil and any other technical specifications, there is going to be a tech spec sheet, right, available. And so yeah, this data is definitely missing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it
Mhm.
is indeed. And then, and here's a tip for everyone who's watching us right now. And if you are in the B2B space, having spec sheets or more detailed information on your product detail page is not only useful for your customers who's browsing your website and maybe learning more about your product, but it's useful for your sales team as well. Because sometimes you have a new release about a specific product, and then you don't need to print or to send like those long, PDF emails internally to update the whole team. If you have your website as, a source of truth for data, it's also useful for your sales team. They are maybe in front of a client or in a trade show, and the client wants to know more about a specific product. They can easily pull up that information from your own website without having to go to an intranet or anything, less robust as your own website. And the client will, or the prospective client will have the certainty that the website is up to date with data as well that they can rely on. So I think it's a huge opportunity to use better the product detail page here.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree. Let's add a product basket and see what happens. Okay, that's good. Definitely behaving as expected here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's probably some subtle design improvements I would make, like a primary call to action. So checkout should be the only orange button. So definitely make sure like when people are going through your cart and checkout process that you have primary, secondary call to action defined. Helps drive the user to understand what is the expected next action in the flow process. There's some things here that I think, like coming to the checkout page, are what I expect. So I'm not going to purchase this oil, obviously, but then just from, scratching the surface here, I do see that they do allow for shipment to multiple addresses, which is very important. Oh, well, that's not good. Well, in theory, it
It's
was good.
important when it works.
In
It's
theory,
really
it was good,
important.
but okay, that was not good. So yeah, please address bugs on your side. But for B2B, it is important that when you're people are making that bulk purchase, like we said, right, to allow for multiple shipping addresses and all that, so that is good, but make sure it's functioning.
Yes.
I did see this, like, I want to point out one thing about the call to action again, because I mentioned it on the cart page that
Mm-hmm.
the checkout button should be the only orange button. The rest should be styled like the update cards. And let me see if I go back to it, just so we could look at it. So the remove button, it's styled differently, but I still think the black is too strong. It should be a bit more subtle, or even an icon. Users are very familiar with that trash can icon. If I wanted to remove the product or something small, like this size font would be fine, right? Like to remove, or an X, right? And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
update basket shouldn't be orange, right? And I could see it's disabled, but it's a bit distracting, almost the positioning of it, because my eye goes from like top to bottom on a page. Then it almost looks like this is my next action, which is not the case, right? That checkout is. And so in terms of the continuity and styling of those calls to action, I think it's because they probably have an iframe or some integration here. But notice that this is the button that's styled with the orange. I doubt this is, we talked about the feature being good, but I doubt it is the primary call to action. It shouldn't be. It should
Mm-hmm.
be optional because it only is relevant for a fraction of, or a segment of the users, right? Not everybody's going to ship to multiple shipping addresses. So this should be styled as a text link or in a secondary call to action button style that is less prominent than the place order. They're stylistically, if we choose orange background, white text, rectangular, right, as the button style, then other elements on the page shouldn't use that color. So make sure your primary call to action and that style really stands out apart from everything else. So the total here is probably better styled differently, right? And this table, right? We could probably clean up the styles here so that it's still very clean, easy to read, and stands out, but not using that primary call to action style.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's where there's a even a bigger issue, but along the same theme, right? Is that this place order button, like, I don't know, you might be able to quickly check for me, but like this cart stream is probably an extension plugin or what payment gateway, like that brings in this iframe, and so that's why the place order button is purple. It's not even on brand. It's a lot smaller. It's sentence case, like we said, like capital P, lowercase. Um, and so all of these orange buttons are jumping out at me a lot more than what I'm supposed to click to complete my purchase, to place order. And then the discount code. Not all users will have a discount code. Perhaps they're big with giving B2B customers discount codes. Maybe that is part of their marketing strategy. But in this case, like the discount code should not appear below the place order. Like place order should be the final call to action. Like I do see on a lot of sites in the checkout screens, the discount code is implemented in a way that is very distracting to the user focusing on the primary goal, which is placing the order. right? If someone is invested and they have a discount code, actually, we did see, I think, on the homepage, right, some discount codes, then they'll find the field. You don't need to style it as the primary call to action colors and draw attention to it. It should be easy to find in sequence with your other form fields. So users aren't going to have a hard time finding it. But yeah, that doesn't need this prominence and definitely not placed after the place order button.
Yeah, and I agree. But something, and 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 again, using an iframe like that for payment gateway is totally fine. Multiple websites does that. And sometimes, depending on the payment gateway that you choose, you're less flexible on changing things to reflect your brand. That's fine as well. But no problem there. But something that I noticed, uh, maybe, and I of course I'll have to assume that they did intentionally. Did you notice how there's no login page? There's
Hmm.
no my account. I was once you were there at the checkout, I was looking
Gotcha.
everywhere. I was looking everywhere, and there's no. And I keep thinking,
Yeah.
maybe there is a business reason for that, but from not to 99% of the websites that we worked with on the B2B space,
Mhm.
it's always good to have an account. So within the account, you not only can control the products that you purchased and and see tracking for shipments, etc., but you can also reorder quite easier. Imagine yourself with a construction site and you have multiple excavators, and let's say for accessories or oil, things that maybe you need more often, and it's always the same product that you need to purchase. And if you have to go through all the same steps that you did right now, I don't know, maybe that's the only place they have to go to purchase. So,
Yeah.
it is what it is. But from a usability perspective, having my account, I'm not even talking here about, I could spend another hour talking about the reasons why I would have. But even for the discount, because you mentioned that in the B2B space, we know there's a lot of discount per group of products,
Mhm.
or for tier pricing, if you buy one, it's going to be X, but if you buy two, maybe half X, and maybe that, or even to not only celebrate but recognize customers that buy more often from you. I'm not talking only about the dollar amounts, but I'm talking about like the how often they go back to your website and say, well, I'm going to divide them per customer groups. So I'm going to call them, like those basics, like bronze, silver, and gold, platinum, whatever you want to call it, and have those groups, and then offer specific price for those groups based on login. And but I
Yes.
cannot log in here, so that's different.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a reason. Maybe I don't want to jump on any conclusion and say, hey, Hitachi, you should improve your website and do this or that, because maybe there is a really good reason behind the scenes that we don't have information about it, but something that I noticed quite
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's that whole area of account service and self-service that we touched on and assuming well B2B, they should be providing those services. And it almost seems like their checkout, and I think you nailed it. It's like it's a guest checkout and I cannot log in. Yeah. And even based on the icons, right? Just search and cart. Yeah. It's surprising for sure. A lot of missed opportunities. Yeah.
uh,
Because then, if they had that section, so maybe then this wraps up our episode nicely. But then, if they had that section, I would be very curious to go through that account creation flow, see how it is, log in, see how the account dashboard is. But unfortunately, it looks like it's not even it doesn't exist. So, yeah.
Yeah, I even went to their sitemap to see that maybe they had something, that is just maybe because we are here in Canada while we're doing this video, maybe they are in UK, and maybe there was something that prevent us to see like an account or login. Maybe
Right.
maybe there is, but even in their sitemap, I couldn't find anything that indicates to me that I would have that.
Right.
And I want to talk about the sitemap for 1 second later.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll pass it to you. Do you want me to click into the sitemap? Because I think
Yes,
that was
please.
okay. Let's do that.
Okay, so here the sitemap. Usually the sitemap is something that will help the user to find a page, a specific page, or a specific a link to a category page that they're looking for, but also helps Google and other search engines, but Google is the number one, to understand what your website is offering in terms of content and products and categories, etc. What I noticed is that if you could scroll down a little bit, yeah, here, just stop there. Uh, it, the first one at the top is a vacancy form, which I believe it's not related to, because what I clicked already and took me to the career page.
Yeah.
And then you have guest Wi-Fi network, and it's a content about how to access their Wi-Fi. Uh, and then, there are a lot of good things. But for example, if you, where was this? Oh yeah, here.
Or even this.
About us copy, and
Yeah.
and there's a
Yeah.
copy too. So maybe they updated the copy, and then they have a second copy about the about us. But again, and it is redundant. If you scroll up a little bit, you're gonna see there's a whole about us section
Or
here.
this.
No,
Yeah.
no,
This one.
right
Oh.
underneath the get 36 months. So I don't know exactly
All
where.
right. You mean like this whole section,
Yeah,
and
there's
then
there's
there's
about
some
us, and
about
then there's about us
us,
copy, and
and
then another
yeah,
about us.
yeah, and also
So
redundant links too. So that's one. This all caps
yes,
screamed at me. This
yes.
one is repeated here. Yeah. Do you think that maybe their sitemap is dynamically generated, or maybe they had something installed like a plugin, because you said it's WordPress, right? Is that when they're adding pages, it's maybe the maintenance of the back end, there's maybe a checkbox for them to say, hey, add to sitemap, and then it's being it's just not being maintained. It's like, so
I
it's
don't, I don't,
something
I don't think,
automated,
I
a
don't think
process
so.
automated. Yeah.
I don't think so, Mel, because if it was, if they're using an extension or plugin, which there are extensions for it, maybe they should revisit that and choose another one, because at the same time an extension should add or generate a sitemap based on the enabled page that you have. So the enabled ones, once you disable a page, or once you replace the page name, or I don't believe that intentionally they have about us one, like about us one, about us copy two, about us copy three. I don't think this is intentional. I think, yes, you created like multiple about us page, maybe because you want to promote or add new information, but you will definitely disable that about us. That's why if you click, you don't go to like multiple different pages
Right.
for that. So with that in mind, I think there's something wrong with with the with the way the sitemap is generated, or at least maintained. But because you notice like a vacancy form, I think that somehow, and perhaps I would say based on login, but there's no place to log in. Because I was going to say, I saw that before happening with websites where the e-commerce website is also used as an intranet website. So if you are an employee, you're just going to log in with your credentials, and you're going to see different parts of the website, and more like a corporate, a company, employer website than an e-commerce website. And in those cases, then the sitemap would reflect that. But I mean, guest Wi-Fi network shouldn't be in the website, because I cannot see
Yeah. Yeah.
anywhere. Even if they say, well, it's because someone here at the office using our Wi-Fi, we want to have the document somewhere. Uh, okay, since they are in the office, so print it and leave it there, or create a QR code for a specific page that is protected and go straight to that page, and host it somewhere else. There are other ways to do it. Nothing that will prevent sales. Okay, this is just me being a little bit picky, maybe because honestly, from a UX perspective and things like
Yeah.
that. But for the about us, you having duplications of about us, that could be hurting the way. Yeah, and that could be hurting the way your website's indexed. And you can, I'm not saying penalize for duplicated content because you're under the same domain, but still, it could cause some confusions on the search engine for sure. And you may be losing ranking because of duplication,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but that's all for the session. I would say, Mel, that overall, I know we sound negative sometimes when you're talking, especially when you see things that that shouldn't be here. I would say that overall, it is a good B2B website, and the improvements that we talked about, it's not like, oh my gosh, this will definitely prevent the user to purchase, to place an order. I do believe that having an account or a specific B2B login account could make the whole difference in terms of the way people create new or reorder products. So you would improve there. But overall, I think it's a well done website. Like you have the mega menu could have some improvements on the usability, but it still delivers what it tends to. I think the homepage has pretty much everything that is needed. The things that we mentioned about the footer are good, but again, nothing that would prevent someone to place an order. But yeah, that's my honest review. I would say this is a fair, like,
Yes.
good website. It's not like, oh my gosh, this is garbage. Let's forget it. Let's revamp everything. I think it's good.
Yeah, it's got good bones, I think, and it just with slight adjustments and enhancements to resolve some of the usability challenges that we pointed out, it could really bring it up to that next level. And I
Yes.
think a lot of the things that we highlighted are low hanging fruit that won't take a lot of effort. Like some sites we see, it's like, oh, they're probably better off just starting from scratch. But like what we said, right? Like the categories are there, the data's there, and the reality is B2B customers do have slightly higher tolerance to poor user experiences. And then so some of those things that for us, picking it apart in this e-commerce teardown, we would point out. But as a customer, if they've got to buy that oil, they're going to buy the oil, right? But then creating a better user experience would just touch on like the loyalty and the user account, the my account. I think you're right that that is the biggest opportunity for improvement on the site. That's where you're going to get that loyal customer that comes back, purchases frequently, and you're going to get that repeat order and the revenue associated with that, right?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Okay, so I believe that wraps up this episode of Brand Code e-commerce teardowns. I hope you like it. And if you like your website feature in an upcoming episode, don't hesitate to reach out. Our contact details are in the video descriptions. And fair warning, our feedback will be honest and candid, but always focused on improving the user experience of your e-commerce site. Okay, just like we did here. So thank you very much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in your next episode. Bye bye.